Differences Between Man and Woman by Billy Edward Albert Meyer.
Between man and woman, there are very serious differences that already begin in the brain and lead up to the love life in a feeling-based and sexual form. The brain is especially the most mysterious organ of the human body, but also in respect to all other worldwide and universal life forms of all kinds and of non-human nature. With all of man's fictional terms like consciousness central or headquarters of the human consciousness and central control of the human spirit, etc., the human being can never do justice to all of the possibilities and capabilities of the brain because these are so widely listed that they lose themselves in the endlessness. With reference to the Earth human beings and their sciences, it must be said that, until today, they still gained no knowledge and understanding as to how thinking actually occurs through the brain. Nevertheless, however, the Earth human being's brain attempts to explain itself. This, however, necessitates primarily that one distinguishes between the male and female brains, because in truth, actually, enormous differences exist because the two brains deviate considerably from one another in their working and effectiveness structures. If one examines the anatomy of the brain of small children, then it becomes recognizable that with boys, these are decidedly larger than with girls. This also remains so until into adulthood, whereby men show approximately 100 grams more brain matter than women. However, in contrast to the male's brain, the female's is denser and therefore more compact. Contrary to the brain of the man, that of the woman contains consequently up to 14% more nerve cells in different areas. Contrastingly, the brain of the man shows more nerve cells than the woman in only just one area, and indeed in the hypothalamus. This cherry stone-sized structure, however, is the place of drives and not the center of thoughts or the consciousness-based abilities and possibilities. The two autonomous brain parts of the human being are connected by a cord that is also known as the corpus callosum in the terrestrial science of anatomy. With the female gender, this connecting cord is up to 34% larger than that of the man, which is why the woman can better simultaneously use both her brain hemispheres. Observing and considering the feelings of man and woman, then it is to be noted that these clearly yield the most diverse values. With the woman, the so-called upper limbic system is of great significance because in this she processes most trains of thought. The feelings of the woman are situated in this system, and for example, also motherly love. This part of the brain is most highly developed in this form, and such is only found in the human being as well as in the ape. With the man, in contrast to the woman, the lower limbic system is almost alone responsible for thinking. This is also responsible for vital functions such as, for example, the perception of cold, warm. Likewise, it is also responsible for the control of aggression and sexuality. This part of the brain of the male is already very old and a remnant from primeval times, millions of years ago. Alone, already through the anatomical differences of the brains of man and woman, the forms of perceptions as well as thoughts, feelings, and deeds differ with respect to the male and female. So it is given, for example, that the woman can hear, see, smell, and taste very much better than the man. The world of the man is that of aggression and drives, whereas the woman is very much more oriented on quiet balance, peace, profound feelings and feelings for others, as well as on connecting relationships and their content. What appears as particular with the brain of the woman is the circumstance that this shrinks during pregnancy. However, the perception capability and thinking, as well as her social capabilities and attitudes, policies, and endeavors, suffer no harm because of it. This fact of the shrinking of the female brain during pregnancies means no intellectual time advantage for the male gender, however, because the man also falls prey to a similar process. Namely, actually beginning at 45 years of age, his brain also shrinks, whereby also the capabilities becomes adversely affected. this quite visibly dwindles, and indeed in irrevocable form. The different temperaments are determined by hormones. Through the precisely measured outflow injection of male and female hormones, it is already determined in the womb in which quantity the emergent human being, after his birth, owns male and or female characteristics and behaviors, etc. The female hormone estrogen leads to it that the person becomes more peaceful and more social, whereas the male testosterone makes one ready to take risks, more aggressive and dominant. Together with the hormonal influences, 3 further factors become evident which cause determining differences between man and woman, and indeed, in the form of equal rights and equality. These are vocational and social as well as the human discrimination in life and everyday life. This fact is based on a mistaken thought gone rampant since time immemorial that is committed by both the man as well as the woman. The man thinks that the woman must think, feel, act, and live just as he himself. However, on the other hand, the woman is caught up in the same seriously mistaken thought. Fact is that since primeval times, the man has available greater physical powers than the woman. Consequently, he also has more sweat glands than her. However, this increase of sweat glands is necessary because of the very much higher energy and heat exchange that is designated to the man through his heavier activities, which he normally has to exert, respectively, at least still had to exert in olden times, as there were not yet light jobs for the man, how this is the case in the present and widely effeminate world of men. The man also has available a better sense of direction than the woman, whereas the woman, however, again has a sharper eye for the human beings, and consequently also has a better overall ability to judge human nature if she is not exactly naive. On the other hand, the man is a poorer judge of the human nature, and with regard to a woman's sad expression, he is most extensively immune. Therefore, the man is no marked genius at interpreting facial expressions, whereas the woman, however, is able to quickly and accurately interpret the expressions. In primeval times and in the ancient past, before the modern era, force and gavolt had a much greater meaning than is the case today with the civilized human beings and peoples. However, where the ancient principles of force and gavolt still rule today, their human beings are still caught in ancient primitiveness, whereby they wield war, murder, and homicide, the death penalty, and all other gavolt terrible things. As a rule, the woman is lacking great physical powers as well as gavolt and such things, because from time immemorial she has been the guardian of social and human cohesion, whereas the man, from time immemorial, used his power in order to hunt, to fight, to rule, and to survive adventures, whereby aggressions and drives along with gavolt were his constant companions. Still today, so many men indulge in power and gavolt, through which much disaster is caused, families are destroyed, wars led, human beings murdered, and nature and wildlife destroyed. Often also alcohol, medications and drugs play an important role just as well as also a sudden change of drinking and eating habits, through which a negative change of body evaporation results, whereby, for example, unexpectedly, until now, good functioning partnerships of matrimonial, business, or any other form become destroyed, because the new and strange body odors appear unsympathetic, disconcerting, and destructive. The man as well as the woman should finally learn to correctly use and balance their powers, capabilities, and possibilities. However, above all else, both must learn that they are, in practically every respect, of a different nature, and can only live, think, feel, work, and act in accordance with this. If man and woman would finally learn to accept their reciprocal differentness, then the first step would probably be done in order to strive for and, in the end, to bring about a real equality and equal rights of the sexes in reciprocal agreement.
Connection of man and woman. English translation by Billy Edward Albert Meyer. Connection of man and woman.
Man and woman and their relationships to one another, neither one nor the other must be indifferent, because together they guarantee the progress and survival of humankind. Both can avoid each other, in fact, and go on their own ways being single, however, from the moment that they bring forth feelings for one another and care for one another. Reciprocal obligations also arise to which respect must be given, and that must become fulfilled. Man and woman must not only oppose each other kindly, but also honor each other and behave humanely to one another in order to be able to guarantee an agreeable and dignified life together. Neither man nor woman may be dominating and ruling over the other, but a constant equality and equal rights must be perceived and maintained. Neither man nor woman are allowed to take advantage or to cheat, to mistreat, suppress, or become harmed in some other way, and in every case, both are always to be esteemed and treated as human beings. Whatever is done between man and woman should always be decent, humane, and correct, and indeed irrespective of whether a bond exists between them or not. Therefore, before each deed and before each word, quiet and thorough consideration should be given whether or not it is right to act or to speak. Therefore, man as well as woman should always ask if that, which should be done or said, would they themselves also be able to endure if it was said to them or another. And always, what one or another is instructed to carry out, it should first be thought over whether the task could be fulfilled by oneself. Therefore, a connecting relationship between man and woman is not just an empty, stale word, but in each form is a profound commitment that two human beings enter into for one another. And first, when man and woman set down their relationships for one another into obligatory form, can it become clear what is human, correct, and rational. Each human being, whether man or woman, is connected to the other gender and every other human being, through which all human beings are obligated to one another, which, however, especially comes to validity in the connecting between man and woman. The connective relationship is both in the treatment as well as in keeping the word in honor. Consequently, one should not address the other the way one pleases, because the word also needs respect. Subsequently, only in an emergency should a voice become drowned out with a plausible and logical objection. However, it should not also be that much is spoken, and with it nothing is said, whereby the other side is driven into anger, impatience, and confusion. In fact, it is already the reason to search for a short and succinct, relevant speech which one considers as good manners. However, over and above that, it is to be heeded that the word's worth goes so far that this is the right of the person speaking to not have their speech interrupted if it isn't called for by logical necessity. This should be valid between both man and woman as well as between all human beings. And it is in the special connection between man and woman that this action is so required, because the same rights should apply to both. However, in the connection, the virtue of the gratitude shall also be given for and towards one another, but also not by exaggerating the virtue, the demands, and the giving of thanks. When a connective relationship exists between man and woman, also between other human beings, then they do not speak badly against each other and above one another. An honest connection among themselves does not let bad and evil words arise, because sincere feelings emerge from sincere thoughts that reach to the other. If the other human being is sensitive, then he or she feels the strength of the thoughts and feelings that are brought to him or her, and he or she is also able to read these in the face. Namely, the face of the human being is like a mirror which reflects what is brought to him or her in thoughts and feelings. And how important, therefore, is a basic honesty and profound connection between man and woman that lead a life and a family together. But in their connected relationship, they are a unity with equal rights, even when the world, with many unconnected human beings, resembles a madhouse in which the relationship and connection are often only empty phrases, as unfortunately, the reflections of the inner nature of the human beings are evident in their faces. So much appears to be hidden for the human being, but in reality everything is obvious, or at least everything comes to light sooner or later and becomes evident. How great is the power of connection of man and woman very rarely becomes considered, always presupposing that the connection of the relationship is honest, deep, and conscious, because only through these can an equal rights occur that is both progressive and humane. If this connection is not given, then bad and evil emerge, whereby not many are able to keep on the right path of the life and the progress, because they change for the worst and defame each honest connection of man and woman as well as among the human beings.